Good evening. My name is Ambra Spry, and this is for the class Structure and Function of the Eye. And tonight I am presenting my model of the human eye. I have the physical model made from materials that would be both child-friendly and very durable to allow us to name and explore the makeup of the amazing human eye. To begin with, we're going to look at the extraocular muscles. The 6 extraocular muscles are the superior rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus, lateral rectus, the superior oblique, and the inferior oblique. To go over those a little more thoroughly, the superior rectus is represented here by the pink band, and with this pink band I can show that the primary function of this muscle is to move the eye up. So I can pull on it and it'll allow the eye to go up. Likewise, the inferior rectus can be pulled on and then it will move the eye down. So we can pull it down. The medial rectus would allow us to move the eye toward the nose. And then the lateral rectus would allow us to move the eye away from the nose. The superior oblique up here is what allows the eye to rotate so that the top of the eye moves toward the nose. And then that allows you also to see the inferior oblique, which allows the eye to rotate so that the top of the eye moves away from the nose. All right, we need to take a moment and let the muscles move out of the way just a little bit. We'll be able to get further into our eye model as well as get to the cross section. You can see that the main portion, the white portion of the eye, is the sclera, and that this sclera is designed to let the students see how tough and protective the sclera is. The extension of the sclera is the cornea. It is also there for protection. The cornea then covers the pupil, the iris, and the lens. So we're going to be able to dismantle and see our cornea. Let the students hold it, see the shape, and then we can talk about how the purpose of the cornea is protection, and we can also discuss how it would be very tough and it has 5 layers there to the cornea. The cornea, of course, has to be clear so that it can let the light go through. And beyond the cornea, then we move to the iris. And the iris is a muscle that controls the size of the pupil. We can remove our iris as well. And we can talk about how the iris, being a muscle, can contract and relax, and we can pull on it and make our pupil larger, or we can let it reduce. Let the students see how when the pupil gets very small, no light goes through, or little and no light goes through, or we can then let the pupil open back up and let the students see how light can travel through. And of course the iris represents the colorful part of the eye, so the students can see and touch the color that's shown there. After the iris and the pupil, the next section of the eye that the students can hold is the lens. It is clear as well, and we can look and let the students understand how the lens is very important to their vision, because it is covered then by on the outside ring would be the ciliary bodies or fibers. This can make the lens get thicker or thinner depending on which way it needs to focus. And the purpose then for the lens being clear, the cornea being clear, and then the pupil is always to let the light waves in. and focus those light waves to the retina, to the back of the eye. So we'll now begin to look at the cross section of our model and let the students further explore where that light goes. The first thing we want them to see will be the vitreous, that the shape of the sclera and the eye needs to hold its shape. So we have that clear vitreous fluid that fills up the center of the eye, and the students can manipulate this. They can also smell it. It's hand sanitizer, so it has that clean smell to it, which would allow them to manipulate that, get all the sensory input, and see how well that would feel and give the eye its shape. Being clear, it would allow the light to travel through, and then we're going to look at where that light travels to. Here we have our retina. In the cross section, the retina is just showing on this half of the eye, but we would explain to the students how the retina fills up at least the back 2/3 of wall, and that the eye continues to be in layers. So this layer of the retina is very important because it contains millions of light-sensitive cells. We call those rods and cones. And the macula, the center here, that's represented by yellow, and the students can feel that different texture as well. The macula holds the cones, which allows the eye to see color as well as details. And then in the very center of the macula is the fovea centralis, which is made up, of course, entirely of cones, and it's a small depressed area in the center of the macula. The retina, being represented by the tinfoil, has the different texture to it, and we can just describe all the different rods and cones. Beyond the retina, then, is the choroid, which is represented by red. We're gonna remove now the retina and show how it is in layers. And let the students further manipulate to explain how it is in layers. The back side of the retina, which to us very often looking at would appear red, so we chose red. And the back side has the different textures, just two different sizes, and that would represent how the rods and cones are those millions and millions of light-sensitive cells, that the student could get an understanding that those that area is where, after the light has been focused back there, these cells take the information from the light and then begin to process and decode what that is and send it into electrical impulses or messages and nerves along our optic nerve. But in order for the retina to function well, like so many other parts of our body, it needs to be filled with blood. And so the choroid is that middle layer between the sclera and the retina, and it carries blood vessels that furnish the nourishment to that part of the eye. So we can let the students see how the sclera and the choroid and then again the retina go in layers and cover this section of the eye. But where do those millions and millions of messages go once the retina has taken the information? It needs to be able to travel then by means of the optic nerve. So here we see, and the students can feel, the optic nerve and the optic disc. The optic disc is also removable in disc shape, and we can describe that to the students if ever they've been around people that have a blind spot. That would be caused by the optic disc. And then the optic nerve, which I have represented here. I thought they need to see on a model this size how actually long the optic nerve would be, and that the optic nerve, once it has those messages that have been transferred from the light cells in the retina, need to travel back to the brain, to the visual cortex. And then we could explain, with this being so long of an optic nerve, how if it enters in on the left eye, then it would cross over and be long enough to cross back to the opposite side in the brain for the visual cortex. So we can reassemble the optic nerve. We can fold in our optic disc and reassemble our optic nerve and optic disc. Fill the rest of the eye with the vitreous fluid. Reattach the retina in. Let the students build and take apart and then put back together this model of the human eye. And they would be able to see the order, how the lens is concave and goes in. Then the iris on top of the lens. And then finally the cornea as that protective covering. And there you have a model of the human eye.